Hello and welcome to the Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to bring you some comfort, camaraderie, and conversation to keep you company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, the Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is Rage Cleaning. I don't know if anybody else gets episodes of like a bit of rage every now and then. And it's never kind of dangerous rage. I don't break things, but it kind of comes over me like a bit of a cloud. And it's usually set off by the house being a bit messy. And I know as a parent of 3 under 5, the house is going to be messy. It would be weird if the house wasn't a bit messy. But you know, when you have one of those days and you're like, if I don't do something right now about this mess, I am going to lose it. And it had come in a week when my new baby, who's now, 3.5 months, I don't know where that time's gone, he's been cluster feeding a lot at the moment. I think sparked a little bit by a bit of illness because the girls have just started school and, germs come back, don't they? And also I think he's potentially teething. He's biting on his little fists like nobody's business. So he was cluster feeding for a few days in a row. And I don't know if you ever feel like this, but it can feel like you just strapped the baby, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I love nothing more than feeding and snuggling. But there comes a point where you're like, I need to move and do something. You just sat staring at different things in the room that need cleaning, or you think they need the washing putting on. And it just built up and up and up this day when it got to a point at about 3:00 and I was like, I need to clean. And I just went into the kitchen, gave the baby to Jason. And the funny thing is, in all this, Jason's like, if you'd have told me a few hours ago, I'd have helped. You could have just asked me. And I'm like, no, I just need to clean. So I passed the baby to Jason. He had the girls. And I just went into the kitchen, got the bleach spray, and went berserk. And I mean, like, cleaned every little nook and cranny. I went under the microwave. I even took those stupid little toaster tray things that go under the toaster out that catch all the crumbs, but they don't really catch the crumbs. You know what I mean? I never clean them out. My mum does it when she comes. I've noticed that. If she cleans my kitchen, she's so good at it. She like pulls the toaster trays out, and that's something I never do. But anyway, this day, I pulled them out. I pulled all my coffee machine apart. I was going mental. Like, if you'd have watched me do that, you'd have been like, oh my God. The bleach spray was all over the sides. All the coffee machine and the toaster bits were in the sink in soapy water. Don't get me wrong, by the end of this rage clean, the kitchen looked great. And I actually felt like I'd accomplished something in half an hour rather than 4 hours. So sometimes a good rage clean is just what you need to do. Everyone's happy, being looked after by the dad. Mum's getting all her rage out on the kitchen worktops. And life's good again. I mean, it's a complete mess again the next day, of course, because with a family of 5, in order to keep the kitchen clean, you'll know this, you have to do it at least 2 or 3 times a day. You can't just leave it till the evening and go, oh, why is it messy? So, that was my rage clean. But I don't know if any of you get symptoms of postpartum rage. I don't get it often. I can obviously get a bit moody at times, but if I let things build up and up and up and up and up and up and up, I can just have a bit of a meltdown now and then. And I think it's important to talk about, as mums, we're all going through the biggest range of emotions, particularly postpartum. And I read into it after I had this like little meltdown the other day that cortisol hits hardest around 3 months, I think. You get like another cortisol, I don't know, flush through your body. And that really gears up your fight or flight response. I think I need to read more into it. But it makes sense because the last week or two, I have been on I've been feeling different things. I've been feeling a bit more of an anger to me that I don't usually have. And I'm a bit more on edge. And I'm not usually like that. Obviously, we all get like that now and then, but it just seems to be heightened at the moment. So I think if you're going through something like that, it's always good to see what month you are postpartum or pregnant. I know that we've got pregnant mums listening to this, and to see if it marries up with the hormones that your body is going through at the moment and what is going through your body at the moment. Because it really helped me to understand why I was feeling like that. Nobody had annoyed me. Nobody had particularly bothered me. Okay, the mess had bothered me, but as parents, you if you get bothered by mess, you'd be bothered every day, wouldn't you? So I think it's really good to do a bit of research when you're feeling particularly low or particularly angry or even particularly happy. It's just good to know, isn't it? What hormones are going through my body at the moment? Why am I feeling like this? Because historically, we know as women, there's not that much research on what we feel and what our emotions are. But I think more and more in these past few years, there is. And it's easier to find out what we're going through. I mean, look at the menopause, the amount of research and books published on that recently, I think is brilliant, because that was a previously neglected area. And I think matrescence, which is what we're going through now, when you have a baby, when you're pregnant and you're in postpartum, that was also understudied, I think. And nowadays you can, with a quick Google search, you can find out, I'm on week 12 after having a baby, what am I going through, what hormones am I feeling? And it's just really helpful, particularly if you're having a bad day, to reflect on the fact that some of these emotions and thoughts and feelings are out of your control at the moment, because there's so much going on in your body. So I just thought I'd share that with you. If you've been feeling a little bit low at the moment, or if you've been feeling a bit angry, that we're all going through these feelings and these thoughts in our own way, even if everything's good and we've got no stresses. We all have stresses to an extent, but we're all going through different emotions. And it was quite interesting today because I dropped my youngest at nursery, and her nursery teacher is just phenomenal. She's just absolutely wonderful. She's just like a ray of sunshine. And there was quite a few kids crying this year. They're only 3.5. They're still babies, really. They only do half a day. And she's brilliant with them, this teacher. She really warms them with a big hug and brings them in. And she's exactly who you'd want to see as a 3-year-old, going in, being a bit sad. So today, my youngest wasn't too well. She'd been off yesterday. So I went in with her and I bumped into a teacher, and I said, oh, she was surprised to see me in there, because usually my youngest just breezes straight in. I said, oh, she's a bit clingy today because she was ill. And she said, oh, do you know what? She said, my son's been crying, going to school. And it just made you realise, like, gosh, she's going through that, but looking after our kids. And you think even the brightest, breeziest, happiest people are going through something. And, I'm there being able to give her a hug and say goodbye. And she's probably thinking, oh, my little one is in another nursery or school upset. And it just made me think that everyone, particularly us mums at the moment, whether you're postnatal or you've got kids starting school or nursery, you're up in the night loads, you're about to hit the 4-month regression like I am, brace ourselves. We're all going through something. Even when people look super duper happy and sunshiny on the outside. So don't beat yourself up if you're feeling a bit low or if you're feeling a bit down or angry. It's completely normal, I think. I actually had some good emails this week about the online community I briefly mentioned about starting last week. And it was just to get your thoughts really on the fact that this podcast is very much me talking to you. We're all new or relatively new mums. And I love the fact that you email me, because they turn into little chats and back and forths. And I really love hearing what you're going through and how you're dealing with motherhood, and that the podcast helps you. It really spurs me on, really, getting your feedback. So I thought, it's all one way at the moment. How about we set up an online community where we can all chat? And it could just be a Zoom call with however many of us on. And even if we have separate breakout rooms where we could have different topics, for example, the 4-month sleep regression or teething or mums of multiples, or, different topics. So you can kind of be put with different people and different mums all around the world that are going through what you're going through right now. to get real actionable advice from someone who's in the trenches just as like you. And the feedback's been great. I've had a few emails saying, yep, start it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to investigate how we do it, what time zone we do it on, because obviously we're all around the world, and what platform I'll be hosting it on. And I will come back to you as soon as I've kind of sorted all that. But I think it'd be lovely to speak to you all. I'd love to see your faces behind the emails and get a bit of a community going. Tonight, I've found 2 threads on Reddit, and I just came across them. I thought, you know what, these are actually quite good. And I thought I'd share them with you. So the first one is, what's a parenting hack that sounds ridiculous but actually works? And I'm just going to read some of these answers out because some of them are brilliant and I'm definitely going to be using them. So this first one, she's saying her as in my toddler. Her, I don't like broccoli. Me, it was grown in Arundel. Her, this is actually good. And then somebody else has said it's tiny trees. Somebody else has said it's dinosaur food. So I also pretend broccoli's dinosaur food, and I love that one because it does tend to work. I've not tried the Arundel one though from Frozen, so that could absolutely be worth a try. The next hack is, my kids respond very well to a timer. They turn it into a game and race to finish. Okay, kids, I'm setting a 3-minute timer to get your pajamas on, brush your teeth, ready, set, go. Love that. I think that's a great one. Any race in our house works quite well with the older 2. In fact, my middle daughter got an easel for her birthday, and one side's a blackboard, one side's a whiteboard. And the other day, they both wanted to use the whiteboard. They were adamant. And so I draw a line down it. I said, you have half and your sister have half. No, that didn't work. So I thought, I know, we'll have a timer. I said, we'll do a minute each. 1 minute on the whiteboard, 1 minute on the blackboard, and then we'll swap. Oh, they loved it. They were drawing, and then the timer goes off, they swapped, and it was like a game. So I concur that timers are brilliant with toddlers. The next hack says, when your toddler falls down and they aren't truly hurt, they'll often look at you to determine how to feel. If you look concerned and rush to get them, they'll cry. If you smile, they'll 90% of the time smile, giggle, and start to play again. Again, I completely agree with this. Unless they're seriously hurt, when they have a little tumble, the more concerned I am, the more freaked they get. It's almost like if you, as an adult, if you cut yourself and someone looks at it and goes, you're going to freak. My middle little girl, she's into everything. She climbs, she runs, she dashes, she's on a scooter, and she has quite a few bumps now and then. And I agree. I noticed that if I go to her and make a huge fuss and like, oh, are you okay? It almost upsets her more. Whereas if I pick her up, brush her down and say, all good, she's back again playing. So absolutely, that is a great hack. This one's quite funny. It says, for my boys when they were little until about 4, I made pink chicken. Well, the package said salmon, but whatever. At about 4.5, I remade it and called it salmon, and they thought it was great. At about 10 to 12, my oldest went off fish, but we had a good run. It's funny that, because whenever we get fish and chips, we call it chicken and chips, and they eat it. I don't know what it is for small toddlers or children. The thought of eating a fish is worse than the thought of eating a chicken. But yeah, I completely agree. I know that works for us as well. Fish is chicken. And then this tip says, not a parent, but I've heard that putting generic Disney/Spider-Man, etc. stickers on food containers is pretty effective at tricking young kids into thinking it's branded by the franchise. So you don't have to pay a markup on frozen brand yogurt or whatever. Yeah, I like that. I might start sticking frozen stickers all over my bag of carrots and broccoli in the fridge. I'll report back on that one. Okay, the next post I found says, what will you simply not be doing second time around? So this is obviously for parents who've had one and they've learned from things they maybe did wrong or wouldn't do again when they have the second. So the first poster says, for me, things I wouldn't do second time round. is fixating on milestones to get there in the end, not being tough enough about bedtime, dressing them in anything but sleep suits until 6 months. Oh, right. Okay, so you didn't put them in sleep suits. See, my little boy lives in sleep suits. I love them because, there comes a point where they can't wear them anymore and I miss them so much. Next is taking unsolicited advice from people and then taking them to baby sensory / baby classes when they're too little. And this person thinks it's a waste of time. Yeah, I get that. I didn't do many baby sensory classes. I do think they're fun and I think they're good for bonding with other mums potentially. But I've had a lot of success in terms of bonding with other mums at toddler groups, play groups, where they're like £2 on the door in a church hall. And I find, compared to like baby sensory or baby activity classes, they're focused a lot more on the baby. And like this person said, the baby isn't getting a ton from that when they're tiny. I'm talking like sub 6 months. So I prefer to go to mums and tots groups or, whatever toddler groups where they just lay all the toys out, the kids play, you can do whatever you like, and you can chat to mums. I chat to mums so much more in those groups than in like set up classes where you have to do an activity, for example. The next person has put what they won't do second time round: having visitors just because everyone has to come, staying home for too long and being scared to go out with a baby because I might need something, and worrying about what people think when I decide to do one of these things. Lol. This person's put, second time around, I have way less fear about leaving the house with my kids. I mean, bringing 2 out solo is a little stressful, but I'm not scared of baby needing something because I packed what we need. And you know what? If he cries, he cries. I do think with your second and third, there comes a little bit more at ease with that. I remember when I had my first, going out with her, it was like a mission. It was like, have I got everything? Oh my gosh, I need the nappy bag with everything in it. What if she needs 2 changes of clothes? What if we need this? So even just getting out of the house with the first was like a mission. But the other day, I dropped our daughters off at school and met my friend and kept the baby, obviously, walked up to the cafe with her, got to the hill near the cafe and was like, I've not brought a nappy bag. I had not brought anything for the baby. I literally had the baby in the sling and my boobs to feed him. And isn't it funny how you get to that point where you just become so much more chill? And all I did was, when we got up to the top, there's an Aldi, so I just nipped in, bought nappies and wipes, and then went to the cafe. No big deal. If that was my first, I'd have probably turned around and gone home and got the nappy bag. And it's amazing how your parenting eases up a little bit the older your children get. Let's see what the next one is. I will not be, this is another one. Oh, spending hours on TikTok and Reddit and Google trying to find no quick cry sleep training methods. Not because I'm going to go straight to cry out. I probably will just suffer with the interrupted sleep, but because I simply will not be obsessing over wait windows with no end in sight just to be told to pay for a course by a self-proclaimed expert to unlock the secret magic to a baby that sleeps through the night. Yeah, I get this one. I obsessed with sleep with my first and researched about wait windows, and I put a lot of stress on myself, even in the night. This time round, with my son, he's having to fit into our schedule. He's having to go to the school with us. He's having to be woken by his sisters when he's trying to sleep. And in the nights, I've said previously, I co-sleep with him. And my nights have been the least stressful so far. Because first time around I was too scared for the first few months, and I'd put her in a crib and she'd wake, and it was just like constant every hour up to the point where I was like, how am I even surviving? Second time round, I was a little bit more relaxed with the co-sleeping and I did find it a bit easier, but still I would try and get her back in the bassinet. And then this time round, he's next to me most of the time, and last night was one of the 2 nights I had to stand up and rock him since he's been born. And I know, speaking about this and saying it's okay this time round, means he's going to enter his 4-month sleep regression tomorrow, and I'm going to regret saying that all is well. But the main thing I'm trying to get across is the less stressed you are, the better. Because I think babies can sense when you're uptight and you're stressed and you're worried and you're panicked. And we're all going to have that, especially if you're a first-time mum. Everything's new. It's completely normal to feel a little bit on edge. But the more you can relax and ease into it and think, babies have been raised for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, haven't they? And I was actually thinking, what did they do in the war, for example? What blankets were they using? Were they using a sleeping bag? Probably not. Did they have all these mod cons we have? Probably not. And yeah, I just think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when in actual fact, the more stressed, more chilled you are, the better. Oh, I like this one. It says, I will not be leaving my bed for the first week or two. I completely overdid it postpartum first time round because everyone was like, have a walk, go outside, go get coffee, you'll feel better. So this time round, she is not getting out of bed, and no will be her favourite word. And I really like that. Back in the day, when my nan had my mum, it was 2 weeks bed rest, non-negotiable. Now, I know nowadays we all want to be at the hospital. Most of us do anyway. I did. I think you get to a point on that ward where you're like, I need to be home. But back in the day, it was 2 weeks bed rest with nurses and midwives around to help. Nowadays, it's like, see you later, back home you go. And no wonder so many new mums are struggling. It's a big shift, isn't it? It's a big shift having a baby and having to learn the ropes in a few days. So be kind to yourself. If you are freshly postpartum, take this person's advice, heed their advice, and just rest as much as you can. Even if your birth wasn't traumatic, even if you didn't have any stitches, or if you didn't have a cesarean, even if everything went completely fine, you still should rest. It's it's a major, huge thing that your body's just gone through, isn't it? Giving birth to a baby. It's like nothing else. So please, if you are freshly postpartum, listen and rest. I'm 3.5 months and I'm still taking my time. I'm still taking my time to go on walks. I am resting as much as I can. Right now, both the girls are at nursery and I have a sleeping baby boy on my lap doing my podcast. I'm not in any hurry to go and break my back, bleach in the bathroom, or, like I did the other day. So yeah, I think that's great advice. Try and rest as much as you can. Next tonight is what's trending, and I keep seeing these posts on social media about breastfeeding and how there was one girl and she bottle fed with her first and then she breastfed with her second. And she said in this post, she got more criticism and more people saying to her, ease off the breast than with the bottle. And she was basically saying how when she bottle fed, she didn't really get any opinions. It was like, fine, you bottle feed. But with the breast, she's been getting a lot more opinions that she's not liked. Like, oh, he's always on you. Or, oh, you're feeding so much. Or, oh, it'll drag you down. Or, oh, are you sure you want to do that all the time? Why don't you combination feed? Or, oh, the dad won't be able to help as much. Lots of comments like this. And I agree in a way that if I saw a post about somebody bottle feeding, I would never in a million years comment. And I would never in a million years say anything. Same with breastfeeding. I wouldn't. It's up to you how you feed your baby. And I've always said from the beginning when I started this podcast, it's a safe place for everybody. Everybody, every mum, no matter how you feed your baby. But I have been seeing videos of breastfeeding mums saying how many comments they get and how many people just get in their business about it, whether it's elderly relatives, whether it's friends, maybe meaning well, but it doesn't help, does it? I mean, if the mother is really struggling and you can see that she's in agony and the baby's not getting enough milk, then absolutely that's a time to maybe say, maybe we should get some help from a lactation consultant, or maybe we should reach out to a health visitor and get some advice. Completely agree with that. But if the mum is breastfeeding completely fine, she is happy doing it, yes, the baby might be cluster feeding, but it's not, the mum isn't showing any signs of being down or low and she's happy breastfeeding, then cut the comments. Cut the comments. If she wants to breastfeed all day, all night, and that's making her happy, then that's okay. I've said this before, but in the UK, we have the lowest breastfeeding rate in the world. And I know there's a lot of circumstances to take into account here. I know there are some mums that have to go back to work quite quickly. I know there are some mums that can't breastfeed. I know that some mums, because of circumstances around the birth, couldn't breastfeed. And there is nothing wrong with not breastfeeding. But what I'm saying is, if somebody is happily breastfeeding, leave them to it. We don't need to make these comments. I've had it from one or two people in the past. Oh, it'll drag you down if you go on too long. And I'm like, well, that's my decision. You know, if Jason came to me and said, you are really low, this is taking it out of you, we need an intervention, then I would listen, obviously. But yes, it's hard. Yes, you do become their dummy at sometimes, you know, during the night. Yes, it will feel like it's a lot at times, but it's also wonderful. It's also such a great thing to be able to do, and I really enjoy it personally. I know not everybody does, but I really enjoy it. And like I said the other day, I went out without the nappy bag and the nappies, and I just went out with my boobs, and that felt really liberating. You know, that was like, oh yeah, I've just got the baby in my boobs. And I'm not saying it's hard, this discussion, because I don't ever want to offend anybody, whether you bottle or breastfeed your baby. I'm just saying that these videos I've been seeing about breastfeeding, getting a lot of comments as well, negative comments like, oh, you know, we can't all breastfeed, and you know, you're preaching about breastfeeding. And it's like, I don't think people are. I think if a mum wants to show herself bottle feeding a baby, wonderful. If a mum wants to show herself breastfeeding a baby, wonderful. Can we stop with the comments? You know, it's just, let's build each other up. Let's tell each other, congratulations, however you're feeding your baby is thriving. And we're all meant to be supporting each other. And it just upsets me a little bit when I see other mums going in on other mums online. It's like, give each other a break, guys. You know, it's hard enough as it is. We don't need each other popping. So yeah, I don't know what you think on that. Drop me an email, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. I am going to end tonight's podcast here because I haven't mentioned earlier, but I actually have an abscess in my mouth. And I woke up with it yesterday. And as a mum, when you feel ill, it makes things much more difficult. And it makes talking on a podcast difficult too. So I am going to pause it here this week. And I'm going to thank you all for listening. If you have any emails or any stories or any questions, if you'd like to tell me your thoughts on having that online community, then please drop me an email. I always love hearing from you, and I always respond to every email I get. And I wish you all a restful, peaceful night ahead. Good night.